Okay, we're going to go over directions for your digital story using variables. So, step number one, you need to write your story. You need to write it out on paper. That'll make it easier. And then you need to go through your story and decide which words you can change into variables. Remember that a variable is a placeholder so that I can, if I'm doing a math problem, I can have the letter or X and I could say X plus Y equals or X plus 3 equals 10, and then I would fill in whatever I'm going to solve for. Or I could fill in lots of different things. And that's what we want to do. So, for example, for our story, if the story says Goldilocks saw 3 bowls of porridge, I could make the word food the variable, and then porridge could become pizza, pineapples, Pop Tarts, whatever. So, in order to do this, you need to identify at least 10 variables. But the more you do, the better your story. Okay, so here's an example of mine. So I wrote, you can write a comment. Notice, and there's going to be a question about this on Friday. So that way I can tell if you watched the video. Up at the top on line 1, look and see what punctuation mark is in front of the comment that I wrote. If you see that punctuation mark, then that means it's a comment. People, humans, can read it, but the computer does not. So anything that you write, if you put slashes in front of it, then that would mean that you're going to have just a comment to the reader or the person that's trying to either write the code, correct the code, or run the code. So here's all my variables. I went through and I followed the tutorial that's located over on the, does my mouse work? Over here on the right-hand side. Just go through the tutorial and it's going to tell you what to do. And here I have my variables listed. I have 12. So they're all listed, and here's my words. It tells me what I'm going to type in, and that's pretty much that slide. After you've done that, again, I have a comment, or no, next you're going to test your code. You'll hit the run button, and it's going to go through the blues where I filled it in. Here's my please enter a famous villain. Here I have please enter a famous villain. I put in Darth Vader, and I just went on through test to make sure that all your variables work. Check and make sure you don't have any punctuation marks at the end. You can always look at one that's previous. Make sure your last line is a parenthesis. This is Python, so we don't need to put any punctuation at the end. Java would have required us to put a semicolon at the end of each line. You might want to note that. That might be another question on this quiz. So, press run. You can see what your code does. Okay, now I'm moving down and it says, continue to follow the tutorial to make the introduction code. And so up here in the tutorial, it tells you what to type. You type call, chat, send. Call means that you want the program to go and find that variable. So I want to go look up through what I did, and I want to find where we've entered the variables. But then I'm going to call the words, preparing your story. I'm going to call from the chat. Your story begins in 3, 2, and 1, and it counts it out. So that's just some words you type in. Okay, now you're going to start writing your story. And so when you write your story, again, you're going to go up and follow the tutorial, and you're going to fill in the variables. Notice the more times you fill in the variable, the better it is. So here's my once upon a time, there were 3 little, and I have type of person. To make it plural, then there's my plus that it tells me to type in over here. And then I have my S. Now, if I wanted to space out correctly, notice that there were 3 little, and then I have a space and basketball players. So at the end of the word little, I hit my space bar. Whenever I keep going, when it says one basketball player built a tent of straw, after I have the type of person, before I type the word built, I put another space. Otherwise, basketball player, the next immediate letter would be the letter B, and it would run together. So to correct that, you just put spaces either before or after your words. Notice that in this line, I use shelter 2 times. I use type of person 3 times so far. So every time that it's going to refer to my noun or my subject of my story, I put the variable in. And that's all you will do. You will continue to write your story. It will run. Whenever you run it to videotape it, and I want you to screen record it on your iPad, you'll hit this button, and I'll have directions on that on where I want you to turn in the screen recording. On this assignment, you need to turn in 2 screenshots. You need to turn in 1 screenshot of the tutorial, So I know that you went through it. That gets you up to a 2. Actually, that gets you to a 1 because you're putting more work in on this, and that's what the rubric says. So that would get you to a 1. You went through the tutorial. The tutorial probably will take you 10 minutes. And then I want you working on your story so that you fill in your information. And then when we screen record it, then people can actually see what your program or what your story does. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions. You can type them on the assignment. Thank you very much.